Hey everyone, I'm so excited to share our podcast has been nominated in Boise Weekly's annual Best of Boise contest. And while it's an honor to be nominated, I have to admit, it would be even more fun to win. If we've helped you connect to the city you love, go to the link in the show notes to vote for us by May 23rd. Thanks, Boise. Could your table scraps and lawn clippings be the solution to saving our landfill? Today on CityCast Boise, we've got everything you need to know about our local composting program, how it's improving air quality, freeing up landfill space, and providing free compost to people in Boise. It's Tuesday, May 14th. I'm Lindsay Van Allen, and this is what Boise's talking about. With us today is Lisa Knapp, Compost Program Lead for Boise. Thank you so much for joining us today, Lisa.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, I'm so glad we get to talk today. So Boise's Compost program started in 2017, right?
That is correct.
How's it grown since then? How's it doing?
Well, it has been a very successful program from the get-go. It was something that our residents really wanted, to be able to recycle our organic waste. And we structured it initially as an opt-out program, which means that we incentivize participation by giving people a better rate on their trash bills. So we do have a 97% participation rate of our residential households, which has held really steady throughout the program and is quite remarkable compared to other cities our size.
I didn't think that 97% of people in Boise could agree to do anything or come together to do anything like that. Why do you think it's so popular with Boise residents?
You know, it's a really easy program to participate in. It does mean having one more cart along with your trash cart and your recycle cart. But aside from that, it's not very complicated. It's easy to put things like your yard waste and your food waste into a bin.
Making it easier is always a great way to try to get people to participate. Just for anyone, 97% of people are participating, but for anyone who might not yet be participating or is new to the area, I wanted to give kind of a quick start guide. So how do people get the bins to get started with the program?
Yeah, sure. So when you move into a residential house in Boise, so whether you bought it or you just moved into a home you're renting, you'll get set up with trash service. And at that point, the automatic trash that's going to be given to you is going to have a trash bin, a recycle bin, and then also your compost bin. You can choose to not participate in recycling or compost, but we make it very easy and straightforward.
How much does it cost to participate?
The standard trash service here in Boise is a little under $24 a month, and so that includes all of your services. If you choose to not recycle or not do compost, it's going to be about a $6 increase on your bill.
Oh, so if you're part of the program, you actually save money?
That's correct.
Okay, so you're saving money and you get an extra bin.
Yep.
I love a good bargain.
Yep.
So what all can go in this bin?
The majority of what's going to go in there is your yard waste. So grass, leaves, we can take branches, your garden waste. We can definitely take weeds. That's one of the big myths that we hear a lot. But our composting process is hot enough that we break down any kind of weed seeds, including those pesky goat heads, if you happen to have those in your yard. We also take vegetative kitchen scraps, so things like your vegetable and fruit cuttings, apple cores and peels, your banana peels. You can also put things like popsicle sticks or disposable chopsticks, wine corks, as long as they're real wood, can go in your compost bin.
Okay, what are some things that absolutely should not be going in your compost bin?
Well, the number one thing, of course, is plastic and anything that's not compostable, so trash. So occasionally, you send your kiddo out to the trash can with that and it gets in the wrong bin. But we really don't want any sort of intentional contamination. The other things we don't take are meat and dairy products. Our facility is not permitted to accept those, even though they are compostable. We prefer to not have pet waste, although sometimes it does get raked up with your leaves and put in there. It just carries a lot of different types of bacteria and pathogens. And then the other thing that ends up in there a lot is dog toys. So make sure you pick up your Kong balls. Those are expensive and your pups will miss them if they end up at the compost facility.
So make sure and clean all of your dog waste and dog toys out of your yard before you're getting everything for the compost bin.
Correct, yeah.
And are people usually using the program correctly, or is it really common that lots of things are getting into these bins that shouldn't?
No. Overall, Boiseans, like with so many other things that we do, really care about these programs, and we get very clean material in. That said, there is some contamination, and when it arrives at our compost facility, there are people who work there who have to actually pick through everything that comes out of the back of that compost truck by hand to double check and remove any trash or other contamination.
So, Lisa, if you had to grade the people of Boise on how they're doing with following the composting guidelines, what grade would the people of Boise get?
Oh, a solid A minus for most people. So I think there's always room to do a little bit better, either by adding other organics in that are currently going in your trash cart, or just double checking for things that shouldn't be in there. But overall, Boiseans do an incredible job of sorting out their compostable waste.
That's excellent. We don't get a lot of A's in this state, so we are going to, a win's a win.
Yeah, take it.
Composting makes a lot of sense for single family homes with, all those vegetative scraps and yard clippings, weeds, flower beds, all of that stuff. But Boise has been focusing on building more dense housing. And with the new zoning code, is this program going to be as accessible to people who are living in these apartments?
You are correct. And yeah, that's something that we are actively looking at with our solid waste programs. When we increase density, and in particular with our new zoning code, where we're going to have multifamily units that are small scale but are in what were formerly all single family residential streets, it creates a real challenge for solid waste servicing. So those are things that we're looking to address through a couple of different programs. One thing that we have done is we call it our Commercial Organics Initiative. And so over the last couple of years, our team has been working to change the city ordinance. It used to be that only our franchise hauler who was working for the city could pick up waste from a residence or from a business. So that has now changed, where there's an open market in Boise, which will allow anyone who wants to start a business or to bring in a business from another area that can pick up organic material for composting or for anaerobic digestion or for animal feed, can come in and do that. And there are not restrictions on that business the way there used to be. We've seen a couple of businesses start up here. So we have a few registered haulers that are listed on our website. But we're certainly hoping to see more of that, which will allow both multifamily properties to have composting service and also businesses like restaurants in our downtown core, that some of them really, really need that service and throw away a lot of compostable waste right now.
At Evernorth Health Services, we believe costs shouldn't get in the way of life-changing care, and we're doing everything in our power to make it possible. Behavioral health solutions that also keep your projections at their best? It's possible. Pharmacy benefits that benefit your bottom line? It's possible. Complex specialty care that cares about your ROI? It's possible. Because we're already doing it. All while saving businesses billions. That's Wonder made possible. Learn more at evernorth.com/wonder.
Lisa, I've heard that there are some rumors about the quality of the Boise compost. How high quality is the compost that people are getting back for free if they participate in the household program?
Yeah, that's a great question, Lindsay. So our compost is excellent. I'd give that an A rating too, but you don't have to take my word for it. We, 2 years ago, started to go through a process called the STA certification program, which is part of the U.S. Composting Council. So we maintain a certification on our compost, and we regularly test it at a specialty lab. We ship a little bit of it down to California every couple months, and then we post those results onto our website. So our compost, the only feedstock, so the material going into it, is coming out of those curbside carts. So it's all yard waste and a little bit of food waste. So we know we have a really clean material coming into it. Yard waste compost is generally very high in organic material, so it's a really good additive to your soil, and it helps promote soil health. It's a little bit lower in things like nutrients, so if you were to purchase a manure-based compost, for example, it would have a lot more nitrogen or a lot more phosphorus, which is food for your plants. Ours will be a little bit lower, but it helps to strengthen your soils, which can then promote healthy plants.
How popular is the Give Back program for the compost?
It's very popular. As far as I know, we are the only city our size that does this kind of a program where we have year-round open give back programs. We have multiple ways that residents can get compost. And it has been growing every year. This spring, it's been a challenge to keep our two pickup sites stocked. We actually added cameras to our website last summer so that before people go down with their shovels and buckets and gloves, you can make sure there is material available to help with that. We also have a program where we will deliver 20 yards of compost directly to your neighborhood. People just have to be a participant in the program and have at least 5 households that are participating and a place we can drop it off, and we'll bring an entire truckload of compost to you.
Okay, so just make friends with your neighbors. Get everybody in on this, and the compost will come to you.
Correct. And we love it. And it really promotes community. It's so fun to go by when the truck's was there and dropping stuff off and everybody's out and super excited with their gardening boots and gloves. So
I love it. Okay. All right. Another reason, hey, everybody in Boise, get to know your neighbors, because then the compost comes to you.
Right.
And we're going to link more to the info about the pickup sites and the Give Back program and how you can access that and, get the cameras, see what's going on. We'll have that all in our show notes so people have access to that. Lisa, gardening season is kicking off. Is this compost something that people in Boise can use for their gardens?
Absolutely. Yeah, so adding compost into your vegetable garden will put those nutrients in the soil. Those are the same nutrients that get taken up into the leaves and the vegetables that we end up eating. So you're feeding your family good garden-grown produce. You can also use compost on your lawn. So when you put it into your grass, it will naturally infiltrate and those worms will take that material down. What that does is it increases the organic matter in your soil, and that increases your lawn's ability to hold on to water. So here in Boise, where we have these very hot, dry summers, and most of us have to irrigate our turf grass, it means that your soil is actually able to retain more water, and that remains available throughout the day or multiple days for your plant roots instead of losing it to evaporation.
And you said that you guys accept weeds like goat heads. Is that being in the compost going to cause any problems for gardeners or people's lawns?
It's not. So compost, when it comes in, we put it into windrows, and there it will be at well above 145 degrees for about 30 to 45 days. During all that time, what happens is that those seeds are exposed to those really high temperatures and they just kind of cook. And so that inoculates seeds. It makes them so even if perhaps that goat head shell, which we all know from our bike tires, is almost impossible to break, it may come through there. But if you were to break that open and look inside, there would just be, an ashen remainder from the inside.
I'm curious about the short-term and long-term benefits of the program for the community. So, short-term, I know it's helping to divert waste from our rapidly filling landfill. Is the composting program really making an impact on that?
Yeah. So when organic waste goes into the landfill, what happens is it gets covered every single day. It gets put into what's called a cell at a landfill. It's covered and no more air is in there getting to any of that. And so that'd be a mix of, or maybe your organic waste and your trash and everything else we put in there. And what that does is it creates an anaerobic decomposition scenario. So what's happening is that as that stuff breaks down, it's making methane. It's a very potent greenhouse gas. And with food waste in particular, even in an anaerobic environment, it only takes about 18 months for pretty much all food waste to ever break down. And that's well before our landfill is able to put in that gas recovery system that can take some of that gas out of there. So all of that methane is seeping up into the air. So when we compost it instead, we work to keep that process aerobic, meaning that there is exposure to oxygen. And so it breaks down in the same way that it would naturally out in the environment if, say, a tree fell over in the forest, but we speed that process up and it produces carbon dioxide, which is not nearly as detrimental to our climate.
We just talked about how the Ada County landfill is filling up pretty quickly. Does the composting facility have the capacity to continue to grow at the pace that Boise is growing?
Yeah, so our compost facility, we're fortunate we have a lot of space there. It's located at the city of Boise's 20-mile south farm. So we have lots of room there. But the nice thing about a compost facility is, unlike a landfill where things go there to stay forever, we're constantly moving compost out of there. So we're moving it back into our valley's soils, and it creates more space for us to bring more compost in. If our program were to grow, we have plenty of space to be able to handle more material there.
How much has the composting program cut our community's gas emissions?
Yeah, so by composting our waste, which is actually about a third of our residential waste, so a third of what's leaving our residential homes in Boise, it's equivalent to taking about 1,000 cars off the road each year.
Wow. Is there anything else about Boise's composting program that the community should know about or that you think is really interesting?
Well, a couple of things. One, our parks department has really increased their use of compost in the last couple of years. They have a compost spreader now and a turf specialist on their team. Last year in the fall, we applied compost to 3 city parks in lieu of using chemical fertilizers, which was a really amazing first step. They're also using compost to amend the soil in all of their new projects. And we see this as a huge benefit to all Boiseans, whether they're part of the program or not. Another cool thing that we've done is that with our new zoning code, we have what's called a soil amendment standard, which means that for all development in Boise where there's going to be new landscaped areas, it's required to put compost back into that soil to increase the water holding capacity. It does not have to be our compost. It can be any compost, but it's a really cool and really progressive way for us to help to save water here in our community.
Yeah, so they don't have to use your compost, but your compost is really good, so it's a great option.
Yeah, it is, but we leave it up to the landscaper or the landscape architect to decide what's the best compost for that particular application.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Lisa. I really appreciate learning more about composting around Boise.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
That's all for today here on CityCast Boise. If you enjoyed the show, tell a friend about us. We'll be back tomorrow morning with another great local story from around the city. You won't want to miss it.